Hello, everyone. This is Malika and Audrey, and welcome back to another episode on Let's Unwind. How is everyone doing? Hope everyone's great. I've had a great week since last week. It was a lot at the house. It was my brother's birthday. We had a lot of parties. Audrey, what did you do this weekend? Did you have a
What
good
did I
week?
do? Yeah, I personally didn't really do anything. I've been focusing a lot on my exams, so it's just been a lot of like staying at home, hitting the gym, creating some sort of routine for myself, and yeah, just nothing much going on. But Christmas is right around the corner, so I
Yeah,
guess
you don't
everyone's
seem
going.
very excited. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
look
you're
at
not
me.
very
I'm,
excited about.
I'm in London. It's
You're
fucking
tired. We
depressing.
all are
It's raining
tired.
every day.
Talking about depressing things, on our last episode we did talk about choosing careers, which is a lot for a lot of people. We talked a lot about different struggles that one has to identify what they want to do. uh, and when I already talked about that, we just thought the next logical step to talk about was personal finances. When you do think about what's next for you, you do have to have some sense of security. And we just talked about how important it is to have this conversation as early as possible in our 20s to secure the future that you potentially would like to do. So that's
Yeah.
exactly what we'll be doing today on episode 6. We'll be unwinding personal finances.
For us when we start in our 20s, I think a lot of people kind of forego that. A lot of people love to, when we come out from uni, it's a fresh air of adulthood, a fresh air of like, wow, salary, wages, own income, independence. And I think a lot of that, because of
Yeah.
that, a lot of people just lose track of their own finances. They don't plan long term, they don't plan for the future, and a lot of people take that fresh new independence and spend it paycheck to paycheck. And I think I do see that a lot amongst some of my friends, or most of my friends actually. So I think after our last episode of careers, it is essential that we talk about personal finance, budgeting, tracking our expenses, things like credit score, which I should have known earlier, loyalty points, and yeah. And because both Malika and I are personally pretty bad at personal finance ourselves, we decided to bring in someone as a guest today. And he's a good friend of mine from pre-university in Singapore. He's currently a wealth manager at Prudential Singapore. And he's also the same age as us, 24. Oh, wait, no, Malika, you're 23. You're young. But yes, he's the same age as I, 24. And he's a wealth manager. And yeah, let's bring him in.
Jordan,
Jordan!
welcome to Let's Unwind.
Hi guys.
There he is. Hello.
Like I said, Jordan has been a wealth manager at Prudential Singapore for close to a year now. I think the last time, I mean, I went to university when we were 19. So I think that was probably the last time I actually really caught up with you and saw you, really closely face to face. And since then, I knew that you studied maritime business in Singapore Polytechnic. I knew you studied maritime business here in uni as well. So, why don't you just give us a bit of a background of, where you are, how you got to being a wealth manager at Prudential, and, what are some of the things you see, what you do for your clients in terms of helping them with their personal finances and stuff as well.
So yeah, I think the last time we actually met, I was still studying maritime business. So in uni, I actually continued pursuing that. So I started shipping for like I think about a year. I was supposedly supposed to go to the UK in Plymouth because that's where my university was at. Yes, and actually while studying for it, I realized that I didn't really like maritime business, and the internship was very eye-opening, but I don't think it was for me because I had no interest in that particular industry. Actually, growing up, I was just always better with numbers, and I was always fascinated with the fact of how I could make like money, how I could multiply my money, how I could scale it at a much quicker pace. So, and then this can be in the form of like investments, like in stocks, or maybe opening my very own business. Yeah. And this job actually allows me to meet like people from all walks of life, so I can learn about different business models, mindsets, which never makes this job boring. So it's probably like a good part in that. What I do as a wealth manager for the people that I work with is essentially I protect their dreams. Everyone has many goals in their lives, So it could be sending their children to like the school that they want to attend to, buying that dream house of car that they always wanted, or it could be as simple as I want to retire at 40. Yeah. So basically, the first thing that I'll do is I'll ring fence them from the unexpected. If they become sick, disabled, unable to work, and I do that through insurance. And after that, I will show them better ways on how they can efficiently manage their investments and their money so that their money works out for them while they are working hard at their day job.
I think that's really interesting to know as well. I think like personal finance, like you said, right? You meet all people from all walks of life, and sometimes I think you also do see that even sometimes people from later stages in life also turn out that sometimes they also don't know how to manage their own money, and I mean I guess that's where you come in, and that's how you help them manage their money as well, understanding what they want and helping them achieve their goals as well. When we talk about personal finance, it's a lot, right? It's budgeting, it's tracking expenses, it's making sure that you live in your means and not overspending. Things we wish I knew earlier, we could have taken advantage of loyalty points, miles, airlines. When we travel, we could do that. Or also understanding credit cards and credit score, talking about like how much should we allocate to our needs, how much should we allocate to our wants. It's everywhere, right? Podcasts these days, books these days, it's social media. We have all the information there is to have. But when we want to apply that, I think my first question to you, Jordan, is like, how do we start? Like, if we want to start somewhere, where do you think is the first place to start?
I think generally the good place to start is it starts with you, right? It definitely starts with you. So the first thing that I would actually ask you in return is when you first started your very first job, okay, you started like your very first full-time job, what was your goals from that particular job? What were you working towards?
Malika, do you want to start?
He's asking you,
Oh,
Audrey.
me?
I was looking at him like, he's asking you. You have to answer.
For me, it was when I first started my like official full-time job a year plus ago. I think my number one priority was obviously saving up, right? Like saving up for that emergency fund, saving up for independence, financial stability in the future to be able to afford whatever I want. And then also at the same time, career-wise, is also to escalate and accelerate my career growth and my progression. And that's the goals that I wanted when I started my first full-time job.
I think that's a very nice goal. Yeah, it's a very nice goal to have. So, Malika, maybe you could share a bit more about your goal when you first started working.
Yeah, saving was not one of them, you guys. Definitely not. When I started working, I think in terms of financial goal, the idea was I was working in sales, so commission was also a part of my salary. So the idea was to use that money to travel. So my mindset was that I'll use my money to like pay my expenses, which I need to live, but also like prepare a chunk so I could travel, but for cheap. And the reason why this episode is like so interesting for me, like learn from Jordan as well, is because I've always wanted to invest or use that money to travel. Like saving was not something that I was inclined to in the first go. And I put my investments in like crypto and this and that because I did not know much about this. Like I did not do enough research. Like things like ISA, which are your individual savings account, are things that I got to know like month 7 of me into the job, where I had made enough money before, but I spent it all or did not invest it properly. So my goal was very different to what it is now, because now I know better about personal finance through these conversations. So yeah, the goal was to invest that money, but I did not know because I had like pension going out somewhere. We had investments in crypto and then stocks and this and that. So it just like got really, really chaotic, and nothing really came out of any of it. So I am very interested to hear about, as Audrey said, like where do we start and how early should we know about these things? So like month 1, we start investing into ISAs. We start applying for credit cards rather than month 8, month 9 into the job.
I think that's one of the many pitfalls that I've seen. I think because usually the misconception is that when people actually start earning more, their expenditures as well goes up as well. So
Mm.
then they don't really know when to stop. They don't really see like the line where they should not cross, and they forget to save and invest for future spending. Actually, something that I do with all my clients is on the first session is this just a very simple visualization exercise for the both of you. So maybe you guys could just maybe take a minute or so just to think about what kind of house or what kind of car you want to live in, and maybe give some numbers to that sort of that sort of dream visualization that you have.
I think I know. So maybe I'll give my answer and then Malika, you can think some more. Um, I think for me, I mean the ballpark, right? Of course, I have a lot of dreams. I've like in our previous
Yeah.
episodes, we talked about creating a roadmap for ourselves, and I have, right? And right now, the dream, like the attainable achievement that I want to achieve, is probably purchasing a two-bed apartment here in London. Um, Essentially, of course, hopefully a domino effect can happen, and then I can build something here in terms of real estate
Yeah.
or housing, property portfolios and stuff like that. But that's in the later stage. I think the to for that breakthrough to happen, I want to have my first two-bed apartment here. Um, I think I can find a decent, nice two-bed around zone two, I think, for 500,000.
Okay, for me, I'll think about it like in different years, right? Because like the dream, again, you said could be vast, and like you might like have a dream about something with your parents, something for a house, something for a car, like penthouse and so on. So I think of it as like my 5 year goal. So if I have to think about my dream that I have to achieve in the next 5 years by the time I'm 30 or 27, 28, whatever, before 30 would be to have a company that generates at least $10 million in revenue every single year, and then I'll use that money to like basically buy assets slash liabilities, like having a car, having a penthouse, maybe in Dubai, London, India, whatever. But the idea is in 5 years to have $10 million, just to give you a figure as well.
Yeah, okay. So I think it's fascinating that, the two of you actually went to the same school, but yet you guys have different dreams. And I feel that there is no right or wrong answer when it comes to having like your own set of goals. There's no right or wrong answer, be it like you want to own uh $500,000 apartment or like a $10 million penthouse. It's just how much you're willing to put in the work for. And I'm very appreciative that you guys actually shared this with me. So yeah, so it's good to have this sort of visualization like before you start working, so that you understand that okay, every dollar that I'm investing, that I'm setting aside today, will be going towards something bigger in the future, and there is purpose to that. Save or invest is always for the bigger picture for yourself.
I agree with Jordan. I think we did something like this yesterday as well on a call. And when you actually understand or like think about what you want to do, because some people might ask you to do that on Reels, right? Or like on Instagram, but you never take out the time to like actually think about what you want to do, which might take only 5 minutes, but it just seems like, oh my God, like I'll just do it some other time. But when you do it for 5 minutes and understand what you really want and be very specific about it, like it seems more achievable. And as Jordan said, like there's a purpose behind that. So now Audrey and I know that we have to work towards this number, which now seems a lot more achievable because we know what we have to do to get there. So I think
Yeah.
that's a good place to start, everyone.
I think like for when Jordan when you went through us with our visualization, I think it sets a really better it sets a better picture for both of us, right? Like both of us are now visualizing and we now know what we want to achieve. But then I think that's the big picture, right? When we're talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
now, when we're talking about we want to start out to achieve that big picture, and then we break it down into smaller goals, like on a daily or on a weekly. What kind of tips do you usually give your clients, or what kind of trends do you usually see? I know there's like the different rules. I know that I know, like, I read online there was like the 50-30-20 rule, and then I'm pretty sure there's some other rules as well. But what are some of the rules you would recommend when we think about personal finance and budgeting?
Uh, I think, have you guys heard of the 10-20-30-40 rule?
No.
No.
Yeah, okay. So the 10-20-20-30 rule is just basically like a rule of thumb. 40% goes into your needs, be it like your rent, food, okay, and then 30% goes into your wants. So like that or that brand new iPhone or that new shopping bag. Yeah. 20% goes into savings and investments, and then 10% goes into insurance. So that is so this is just a general brief rundown of the 10-20-30-40 rule. But I will also have to say that it is not a rule that is set in stone. If you have a quite a substantial amount of debt. So that's quite a big liability on your back right now. So I wouldn't suggest you to start investing or saving. I'd rather suggest that you start paying off the debt so that you don't incur more interest in the future. So it really differs from people, but generally 10-20-30-40, that's the way to go.
I think that's really interesting because, like, I've heard about the 50-30-20 rule, where it's like, your 50 is your needs, your 30 is your want, and then your 20 goes into savings, right? I think it's interesting you bring up the 10%, which goes into insurance, because I think, like, I feel a lot of people our age, a lot of
Mm,
people like in their early 20s, right? They don't think about insurance. They don't think like, I need it. I found out it's actually really important to keep like life insurance, dental insurance, health insurance, and all that, because it really, like, yes, you pay a premium per month, but I think, like, in the long term, if anything happens to you health wise, or whatever, I think it's super important that you have that.
I think that's a general like misconception usually people have. What insurance generally does is it protects your current assets, and also in a way helps to distribute your assets after you're gone. I think all of us here, we've already somewhat have heard stories of like people getting cancer at a very, very young age, or becoming disabled at a very, very young age. Every day it's a struggle for them, that they have to wake up. They wake up, they're in the hospital bed, they are fighting for their lives. That is what insurance generally does. It protects you. And for the second part on how assets are distributed, in that particular family, they have many properties, many businesses. This patriarch, he didn't really do his distribution correctly. So if like you have many different businesses, many different properties, all valued at different amounts, you use insurance to top up. So for example, you just make sure that at the end of the day, everyone receives an equal share. So yes, insurance I would say, is also very important, and many of us our age, or many of us, and I think many people in general are underinsured.
No, interesting. I have never thought about insurance because we actually had insurance paid up. When you're a student, you already pay for insurance at the beginning of the year to the government. So you then do not think about these things. Like I paid for Erica insurance in the UK. And then when you have your family, your father, your mother, they might take care of these things. But when you're in your 20s, you have to take charge at some point or the other. So you have to know about these things
Yeah.
extremely early on. And when we talked about this, you also talked about that 20% goes to your investment and your savings. And two interesting things that we just spoke about very briefly in the beginning was your ISA accounts, and then which is your savings account, and also credit card scores and how important it is to build your credit score. I think I introduced myself, like I always had Indian credit cards, but I was not in India, so I never got to use them. And when I started making my own money, it just made sense for me to like spend using a credit card to get those points. I could travel more using those miles, because you can convert your credit card scores into travel miles as well. And that they will also help you like get discount and cashbacks at like stores if you want to shop. So just keen to understand from Jordan, like if you could explain anyone who's watching us about credit scores in the most simplest language, I think it'll help everyone, including myself.
Okay, so basically, right? So if you were to think about it from like a bank's point of view, right? There is so many. There is like, for example, London has about 9 million people, right? Correct. So how would a bank differentiate like from each individual from another? So they wouldn't be able to, because there is just simply too many people. So it goes for, I think, generally everywhere around the world. So a credit score is basically like your score on how reliable you are as a customer to the bank. So how often do you pay your payments on time, and so that's basically how often you pay your payments on time, how many missed payments. Yeah, so that is how a credit score is calculated. So I think it ranges. So if the benefits of having a good credit score is that the higher credit score you have, the amount of interest that you have to, let's say if you take a loan for, let's say, like a house or a car, the interest will actually be lower as compared to someone with like a lower credit score. And I'm pretty sure that And I'm pretty sure in some countries, when you have a low credit score, you will be unable to, there'll be some loans you'll be unable to get, and it'll be harder for you to, maybe start off with that first house or first car. So yes, that's generally how credit score work. And and then which brings me to the next point, which is about like maybe credit cards. Yeah, it's good to know like what are the different types of credit cards and the different types of rewards that they provide. And also to always remember to pay off your debt by the end of the month, because that is how people manage to rack up like a huge amount of credit card debt.
Also, in that sense, I do want to ask as well, like how when you talked about credit scores, right? And let's just say, when we were in uni, we were reckless, we lived in apartments and didn't pay our bills on time, and maybe spent it on too many house parties, all that stuff. How would you recommend for someone who, obviously when they were in uni, probably didn't really get a good credit score when we first started out, and then how do we start building that up again? From now, from when we get our first full-time job, or when we're transitioning into a full-time adult who needs to pay bills and get credit cards to survive.
Yeah. So the good thing about a credit score is not exactly dead. So it's not exactly alive. So every time when you make a payment on time, the credit score will actually slowly starts to go up. So it is not completely dead. So if like maybe just now as you said, maybe in university you don't really have much money and you might have missed some payments here and there. So and I think that's perfectly normal. But the thing is that when you start working, and then when you start racking up, when you start paying for things with your credit card, the moment you make your payments on time, your credit score will slowly rise up. But there are also I think some people do not know that actually when you have, let's say when you sign a credit card, and then when you cancel the credit card, it will also affect your credit score. So you must also like take note of that, not to have too many credit cards. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
It's interesting. I was in Thailand, I think 3 years ago, and I was speaking to this guy I met in Thailand. And he was like 21 at that time, and I was 19 or something. And he mentioned that he bought a car, which he could afford, and he had the money in the bank, Jordan, but he still took a loan out for not a lot of money, like not a large sum, but he still had to pay interest. And I'm like, why would you do so if you had the money already? It's like, I want to build that credit score up. So if I pay my loan and on time with that interest rate, I know that in 5 years I want to buy a house, which will require me to get like a bigger loan, and that my interest will get lower if I could just build my credit score right now. And it might seem like such an adult topic to talk about when you're in 20s, when you're like a year one adult, like I'm a year one or year two adult. But like it's so important to know about these things so early on, so when you are 23, 24, 25, you can start that business by taking a loan or do what you're supposed to do by already having a head start, because most people start very late, and that's an issue. And that's why it's such an important topic to talk about today. So yeah, do it as early as possible, but as I said, do not like recklessly spend because you have a credit card which you don't have to pay right now. So don't overshove, everyone.
I
Talking
think
to me. Yeah.
you should tell yourself that, Malika, says someone who shops every
Yeah.
other week.
No, but yeah.
I think on top of that as well, when we talk about credit scores and credit cards, I think one thing on top of personal finance, and I think it's a very trending thing right now, is investing, right? Like we've seen the past few years, everyone's like, oh, NFTs, crypto. Now we've gone back to stocks, right? And then like tech stocks, energy stocks, oil stocks, whatever. But I also want to know, like what kind of trends and things do you see during your clients' conversations about like investing, especially in when we talk about investing sentiments, within people like us, or maybe within people in their 30s, when they're just getting, when they're more stable down. Like, what do you see are the trends, and what do you see maybe mistakes or things we can learn from for them as well?
For my own personal experience, there's actually two types of uh, personas that I feel that they hold the most risk in them with regards to like their own personal finance. So the first type of person will be someone who is very, very extremely risky. So almost to the point where he treats investments and savings sort of like gambling. So that is when like he really goes all in on like one particular stock, one particular asset, or and he wants, and his mindset which I can somewhat understand, is that this person actually just wants like a huge return on like his money. He wants to just grow his money as quickly as possible, but it is not in like the right way, because what goes up will always come down, right? And with how volatile the stock market is, that is also important for you to diversify your own risk, no matter how much the amount is. Okay, that's the first type of people. That's the first persona that I feel that has the biggest risk to that. And the second person is that this person doesn't really take much risk. So as compared to the first persona, this person is very cautious and very safe with their money, with their money. So what they'll always do is whatever they have saved, it will just be going into like their bank account, which the interest rate which isn't a lot. So that is the second one. Why I say this would be the biggest risk to them is because yes, they do not own. Yes, they are saving very regularly, very disciplined. But the thing is that with inflation every year, it will actually eat up, and their money in their bank that is actually losing value. So I would say that is the second. That is one of the more common trends that I've seen. People that are very scared to invest, don't know what to invest. But actually, the thing is with investments, it's mostly like you have to understand like what you're investing in. It is very extremely important for that for you to actually invest successfully. And if you think about it, actually anything is risky if you do not know enough. So driving is risky if you don't have a driver's license. Swimming is risky if you do not know how to swim. Same goes for investments. So you have to understand like what kind of investments you are looking at, and you got to really understand before you put any money into that.
Jordan, very, very quickly, because when we started, like, I have only had like 1 year of proper full-time corporate job experience, right? And you do make a decent amount for the first time, and you're like, there's so much money, what should I do with it? And the first thought in my mind was, I'll invest it all. Like, I have so much money, I don't have a lot of expenses right now. Should I like invest that money? My father told me that you do not have enough money to invest, but I'd rather have you put that money away in a savings account and have an emergency fund. And then once that limit is crossed, then only you start investing. And my question to you is like, when someone is like a year one adult, year two adult, they've recently started their job, just started making money, do you still recommend your clients in that scenario to like start investing still a small chunk, or would you rather have them save up some for the emergency fund, and when that hits a certain number, then they should start investing? What's your take on that?
That's a good question. Okay, so generally I would say with regards to emergency funds, so typically if someone will only need to make use of like their emergency funds only if like they are looking for a job, or if they become retrenched. I would say that is the highest that is the highest likelihood of it happening. So uh if you think about like maybe health insurance, like let's say hospital bills, what if you get sick and everything, generally insurance will take care of that by itself. So insurance is really like that part is covered. So the biggest expense that you would have is for like maybe let's say if you want to change jobs, or if you're retrenched for of retrenchment. So in that sense, Monica, when just now you actually mentioned that it's your first job and you just started making money, I don't think I don't think when you receive that money you're looking to stop at that job anytime soon. So I think in that
Of
sense it
course.
will make more sense for you to invest. Yeah, so it will make more sense for you to invest,
Interesting.
and make more sense for you to go somewhere. And also investment doesn't necessarily have to be like it isn't something that you have to constantly pump in every day. So it could be like every month you put in like a certain amount, and then at the end of the year there's always like a bonus, and you also can just take that bonus and chuck it in as well. So it's really dependent on how you want to do it. But I would recommend that generally for emergency fund, it's good to have maybe 1 to 3 months of your expenses, and then anything else can be working towards like making anything else will be going into like working for you. So be it like as like your different assets, like your side hustle, your investments, and so on and so forth.
Right. So it is still good to have at least 1 to 3 months of your salary saved up, just in case. But like, you would rather have that money invested if you do not have any goal of shifting careers anytime soon.
Yeah,
Got it.
that is pretty much the gist
Interesting.
of it. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Yeah.
Interesting.
I do like, I think going back to investing, I have a question about that. So I think like when you talked about investing and like you talked about the different risk profiles as well, right? Like me
Mm,
and Malika, like we came from finance, so we came from a finance background, and obviously Malika's have some like family's background also comes from finance, and I've worked in finance for just a little bit, so we understand when we look at stocks what are some things to look out for, like financial performance, understanding the market, industry, environment, competition, etc., etc. But like for somebody who who is completely new to the concept of investing, the stock market, and everything else, what are some things would you recommend for them to start in, and how would you recommend them to start on understanding what is personal finance or what is investing, understanding what is their risk profile and their investment sentiment. Yeah, what would you recommend to that?
Generally, how I would recommend like okay, so I think that with the two of you, you guys have some sort of a finance background. So for someone who completely does not, they must know that risk will equate to returns. So the higher risk that you undertake, the higher returns that you can expect to receive. So that is how generally how the stock market goes. The riskier an investment is, the higher rate of return an investment will be. So when it comes to doing your own research, how I generally do my own research is that I will actually look up like things like what is their revenues like? Have they grown from the past year? What are their cash flow like? What are like their free cash flow like? There's a lot of these sort of matrices that you really have to go and find out and follow. But generally, if you see like a company that is improving, meaning to say revenues increasing year on year, free cash flow increasing year on year, I would say this company is doing very well, and it could be a good option for you to start investing into that particular company.
I am also very new to investing, and I've been in India with my father, right? And like which like trying to like learn more about the financial markets. I think something that I underestimated so much was like just like watch news as well. It might seem very old
Mm.
school, but
Mm,
I have literally been watching news for 6+ hours since the share market opens for like every single day for the past 2 weeks now. And you just know so much because in the background subconsciously you're hearing so much about different stocks doing well, not well, and subconsciously you're keeping track of them, and you're understanding what's really happening in the world as well, because they'll talk about what's happening in the world and how the stock is getting affected. So for anyone who wants to start investing, again, do not take this advice too hard, but like something that has worked for me recently has just been listening to news. And it's just not me reading as well, it's like it's in the background, but it's like having a few glances at the screen every 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes might help. And then after you watch the market for like 2, 3, 6 weeks, you might get a lot more confidence in yourself about, I know what I want to do now, and you can start
yeah.
small. So that's my advice.
Yeah, I think to add on to that as well, I think it's interesting because so when I first started my job, right? I mean, in school, right? They don't teach you, okay, investing 101. They don't tell you how to invest. And obviously, like they go
Yeah.
into classes like portfolio management, asset valuation. They look at like, okay, how do you manage a portfolio, how do you value a portfolio, and then going down to how do you value each and every security. They teach the foundations. But then when I went into, when I got out of school, and then you start looking at the actual stock markets, you look at even private equity. I think a lot of them is very, like you said, Malika, is very like news based. It's very market environment based. Everything's constantly changing. You really need to keep a lookout on, like, geopolitics, the news, everything else, because everything else, you know it does play a factor into the stock
Yeah.
market as well, the political economy. I think some of the books that I've read was like Intelligent Investor. And then, so that is a book that I really recommend. Even Warren Buffett had read, had to, put his notes down in the book as well. And then they talk about like value investing over growth investing, which is, the theme these days. They talk about how to look at bonds, how to look at stocks. And I think that's just a really good book in general. Like it's such like a good like guide if you want to get into investing. So I think that personally helped me.
Have you guys heard of the term financial freedom?
Mm,
Sort of.
kind of.
Yeah. Low
Okay, so
key.
maybe
Yeah.
what
Every-
currently what are you guys ideas on financial freedom?
For me, it's like your money is making money for you. So it's more about that you have your
Okay.
things set up, your side hustles, your main company or job, whatever. You don't actively have to go in to make money. For me, financial freedom is your money is making money for you while you sleep, while you wake up, whatever it is, it's getting done. And that's financial freedom. Not sure.
Okay.
What do
Fair.
you
That's
think, Audrey?
fair. What about Audrey?
Well, I mean, financial freedom, for me personally, I would think financial freedom is the financial stability to be able to afford what you want, like you said, to have your money make
Okay.
money for you while you sleep. So you don't have to worry about the affordability or, yeah,
Mhm.
of things.
How I would define financial freedom would be that you are okay. So when it comes to income, there's two types of income. The first one is active income, and the second one is passive income. So active income relates to things like your job. So you have to turn up for work every day in order for you to receive that paycheck every month. And passive income is just income that is working in your sleep, and you don't really have to manage that. So what Audrey just now said, like, about financial stability. I think financial stability actually just equates to there is a decent amount of money coming in, and it is coming in every year consistently. So that was what I would say financial stability, whereby you can just pay for things because there's money coming in and you can just pay for things and everything. Financial freedom is actually more of what Medica mentioned just now. So it's just money that is coming in even though while you are sleeping, and money is being made for you. So what I mean by financial freedom, it will be that generally the passive income that you receive every month is when it matches like your expenses every month. That is when you have attained financial freedom, when you don't really have to work, and at that point you work because you want to and not because you have to.
Yeah, because I think we
Mhm.
genuinely just like mix up stability with freedom. Even for me, like I did
Mm.
not think that this is financial freedom. For me, it was basically just being comfortable as well and having money make you like make money for you, but you just being comfortable. But there's such a big difference between financial freedom and financial stability. And I think if you think about it in hindsight, like people who do not get super rich think about their life as in their goal to be financially stable, and people who want to be extremely rich think of their life as to be financially free. And it's just such a beautiful like distinction. And then once you're clear about this, like in your early 20s, you would then know what you actually want to strive towards, which I think is a very good ending to our episode today.
But before we end, well, I mean, we've talked about personal finance, right? What is it? How to start, how to, for people in our early 20s. We did a little visualization exercise that, for those who are listening and watching us, do the same, and visualize what you want and how you're going to get that, right? And break it down into small little goals and small little steps. And also touching a little bit on insurance, where I think a lot of people our age kind of always miss it and don't really think it's that important, when in fact it could be very, very useful in the long term and in the near future as well. We talked about investing sentiments, credit scores, everything that we needed to know about in this day and age for us. And lastly, we will come to our resolution, and that's where we always end off the episode with. What are some of the things, like when you meet with your clients, right? And then there's that final takeaway. Maybe visualization was definitely one thing that ties in with a resolution of foreseeing, the goals you want to set for yourself. But on top of that, what are some takeaways you usually do with your clients to understand what's the next step for them to build on their personal finance and their goals as well?
Actually, I'm glad that you actually asked that. Something that I do with my clients after every session would be just a simple goal setting.
Mm.
So these goals are just what you want to see for yourself in like the next year. And if you want to go a little bit more in depth on that, I think that would be great. So maybe right now you guys can think about like maybe just one financial goal that you guys would want to have next year. Like maybe so right now it's December, so by next year, December.
Okay, I'll go first, Audrey, because you've gone first twice. Uh, my financial goal for next year will be that I want to be like financially independent, and if an emergency comes up, like my rent, food, living, traveling will all be expensed by my income and my sole income, and that's my goal.
Okay. So
Mm.
I think that's a very beautiful goal to have by for next year. But so at the same time, I also want to enhance it and make it more precise. So I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the acronym SMART before. So SMART, SMART, S stands for specific, M stands for measurable,
Mm.
achievable, realistic, and time bound. So Malika, just now you said that you wanted to be more independent, more financially independent. So what would be a good amount that you have to be earning every month?
It's a tricky question because I do not have a job currently, but if I do have a job, which I will soon, the idea is to at least make £7,000 a month. Like, this is just a vague figure just to put out there, but it seems realistic, which includes a side hustle as well. So if I make 7,000 quid a month, wherever I am in this world, in their currency, not Indian currency, that's the idea. So that's for next year. So that's time, and I do think it's sort of realistic.
Okay, so generally you want like your annual income to be about $84,000 per year, including like your bonuses and including all the income from like
Everything.
your side hustles, your investments and everything. Yeah, okay. And then
Yeah.
the next question is why?
Why? Because I have
Why do
been
you
in
want
London
to?
for the last 6 years, and good question. I have been making decent money, and I've been using that to like live up to like traveling as my expenses. But that one thing that I have not been able to like afford myself in London is rent, and it's London, so it's very expensive, you guys. Like, no judgment here. So that's one thing that
Yeah.
I've not been very, very happy with, which is like I do pay for everything by myself, but the one thing I do not pay is rent, which is a very big sum of money. And that was one of the reasons why I have chosen to like leave London and go and settle in another city, which is a very big decision. But in hindsight, if I would have been financially independent like at least a year back, my decision might have been different. Again, there's a big might, you do not know, but that did affect a lot of decisions that I've been making recently. So I want to be in a place where my decisions are my decisions because of my money and whatever my expenses, as opposed to like someone else being involved in that. So the why is that I just want to provide for my parents rather than them providing for me now as well. I think it's too late for that. So that's the why.
I think that's a very mature decision to do. Like, first of all, you want to break out that cycle of just like, constantly you have to ask money from your parents. And I think that's a very mature thing for you to think about. And I feel like that's a very good dream to have that's a very good goal to have for next year. Yeah, I think you're
Yeah,
pretty set on
live
that.
below my means.
Mm.
Yeah, that's the motto, live below my means, but also make a lot of money so I can then upgrade myself by myself. But yeah, that's it.
Okay. Audrey, what about you?
I did a lot of thinking while Maliko's talking. And I think the number one thing I want to bring across for the goal for this podcast is I actually want to monetize this podcast. I hope that we can grow this podcast and we can essentially monetize it by the end of 2024. And then grow our content, our strategy, our partnerships, our guests. And yeah, and that's actually the main goal that I wanted to take away. It's not necessarily financial, but it's on the path to find
Yeah,
a
yeah, it's
financial
still a
goal.
goal.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay, so
that's
let's
something.
enhance it. So let's just enhance it. What do you think what do you think will help in the process of monetizing, like for YouTube?
I mean, Malika and I talked about this before, right? And it starts with obviously consistent posting. We do plan to post every week, which we proudly have been, except for one. Um, and we want to stay consistent and also at the same time create a good content strategy moving forward, a direction of um, where this podcast wants to go. And I think Malika and I have a lot of planning to do, but I think that's the first step for now of how we're going to get there. So consistency is key, also at the same time to develop a clear direction of where we want to go with this podcast, which we have some plans. And content as well.
Okay, so I think actually I also have like a secret little confession. So I'm also a secret fan of your podcast. So I think I have seen like the videos to be like about once a week. Right?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
posting is about once a week. So in that sense, there are 52 weeks in a year. So by next year, December, you want to have about 52 videos on your YouTube?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Okay, maybe I'll just
We'll
shave
discount
off
that to 50.
I'll discount you guys to 50, for like an extra week as a holiday as a reward. Okay, so 50 videos by the end of next week, and by the end of next year. So okay, then the next question is why?
For me personally, a podcast has always been something that I've wanted to do, and I'm really, really happy that I've managed to do it with Malika, right? And we've managed to, this is our 6th episode. We didn't even know if we could make it to the 3rd initially when we first started this idea. And so like, I think why is because I personally, have always wanted to do a podcast, and it's something that, I do it because I like it. But why monetizing is, of course, essentially you want to make something out of it. I hope this podcast can become bigger, can become better, greater, and then essentially, like you said, build a stream of passive income for us, both of us.
Yeah, I think that's like that's a perfect reason. This is your side hustle. This is like your little product that you are just building on whenever you're free. And then I feel that's perfectly acceptable. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
And to end things off, I think probably my financial goal would be to just bring my parents overseas for a holiday. I think, yeah. So maybe I think the budget I'm looking at is maybe about like 3,000 to 4,000. So yeah, maybe $3,000-4,000 like to set aside just to bring them on a short little trip for them to relax.
Where are you planning to bring them?
Where? I haven't thought about that yet. I am still busy trying to earn that money first.
No, that's fine. And that's a really, really nice goal, like we talked about family a few episodes ago, and I think it's really, it's really lovely what you're doing, right? I think not everyone has that mindset to make the money to bring their family abroad. And I think, it's a nice goal to have. It's a really nice and heartwarming goal to have as well. But that's it. That comes to the conclusion, right? 3 of us have made our resolutions. We will check back in. Hopefully, we'll make another episode next year about money. And
on
we
19th
have
of December,
2024.
Watch out for us, you guys. We'll be there. 3 of us, similar videos a year later. But but I think anyone who's watching us should also like put down their resolution for next year. And when we check in with each other next year, you guys can check in with yourself as well and with us in the comments below. And as John said, like when you think about that goal, like make it with that acronym SMART. So you know why you're doing something, and you have a more powerful reason behind that, and you know it's realistic as well as achievable, and how you will achieve that as well. When you have that roadmap ready for you, like it'll just be more exciting to check back with us a year later about how you guys are doing. But before we end it off, I think Audrey mentioned something about application in this episode, and something that we had discussed was like I saw this reel on Instagram to like end this podcast over, and there's a guy who went to his a friend's dad who was a billionaire, and the friend asked the dad what principle of success you applied to get there. And the billionaire just said that success principles have been same for the last 100+ years. He just applied those principles, and that's how he became rich. So we genuinely hope, Jordan, me, and Audrey, that you apply at least one thing that you have heard today or watched us do, which could be the visualization exercise, which could be the SMART goal setting exercise, but apply something so you get more excited about what you have to do in the coming year for yourself as well. But yeah, before we go, thank you so much, Jordan, for taking out the time to do so. It was extremely short notice, but he has just been such a beautiful sport, and we're very, very glad to have you on this podcast with us. Audrey, your
Yeah,
friend. You
definitely
should
you're
say
please.
welcome.
something
I'm always happy
too.
to do this.
No. I'll treat him to a dinner when I'm back in
Okay,
Singapore. We'll
done.
hang out. Don't worry about it.
Done.
It's my way of saying thanks.
No,
Uh,
John's part of the family too. Now he's gonna watch the episode. But
exactly.
yeah, beautiful. And we'll put down
That's
Jordan's
perfect.
details in the comments below as well in case you want to know more about what he does as well. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
it for today's video, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in like always and watching us till the very end. We will see you on our next episode next Thursday. Till then, take care. Much love.
Bye.
Bye.